Oh, wait. Is it wizard and witch or witch and wizard?
Witch and wizard.
Okay, thank you.
Make me, Byron said to Wit. Then he gave a smarmy, oily smile, vividly bringing to life all the times I'd seen him in school and thought, what a total butt.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television, Witch and Wizard.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. Patterson's back, Patterson's back, Patterson's back. As a matter of fact, at the airport, every other book on the rack is a novel pen by Lee, James Patty the Mac. Said Patterson's back, Patterson's back, James Patterson's back. As a matter of fact, at your library counter piled up in a stack, James Patterson, every dust jacket is black. Paperbacks made for the slaughter. Did it before, but y'all was saying that we ought to go again. So we took the bait and we gotta talk some Patterson bullshit with Kait and Renata. Collision's minds broke and Jay's not sober. It's time once again for a hot crossover. So listen up, y'all, to your women and your fellas. IDO TV and the worst bestsellers. Cause Patterson's back, Patterson's back, Patterson's back. As a matter of fact, at the airport, every other book on the rack is a novel pen by Lee, James Patty the Mac. Said Patterson's back, Patterson's back, James Patterson's back. As a matter
All right, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books. I am the one who shreds J.W. Friedman. And with me, as always...
Yeah, I'm Chris. Is he witch? Be he wizard? Collision. And we are joined by turbo special guests for what can only be referred to as James Patterson Month. The month that never ends. No matter how much you might want it to. Joining us from the Worst Bestsellers, it is Renata and Kait. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
Hello.
So,
Do you have any witch and wizard James Patterson themed nicknames you'd like to use for the duration?
I'm the one who helps you reset your Yahoo password.
And I guess that would make me the one who spends way too much time on the internet on company time.
there you go. It's perfect. Mine was mostly aspirational. I only get to shred about 4 or 5 days a week, or 4 or 5 hours per week. The rest of the time, I am the one who's software engineer. So depressing.
Darn it.
Oh, okay. So, as Collision has alluded to, James Patterson, the book this time around is Wizard and Witch. Sorry, I keep wanting to say Wit and Wizard, which we'll get into more later.
Wait, is it not Witch and Wizard? It is Witch and Wizard.
Okay, what? Yeah, Witch and Wizard, not Wit and Wizard, though, because
yeah, no.
One of our characters is named Wit, which is very confusing. But he is not the witch; he is the wizard. I don't know. Yeah, you could dissect this title, and it would just continue to get more and more confusing. But this is what? This is a young adult novel for sure. Mm-hmm.
Is it though?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of uncertainty about that. I know.
Just because it's not a good young adult novel doesn't mean it's not a young adult novel.
Well, I know it was mentioned off air that we had to check at one point whether this was actually a young adult novel or a young reader's novel.
Right. Well, our titular witch and wizard are 15 and 18 years of age, but it is definitely written to appeal to the younger end of the YA reader. If you don't know me, I'm a librarian. I have opinions and a degree, and I can reset your Yahoo password, and those are my things.
Yeah, and I agree that this skews towards the younger end of that demographic for sure. I think before we get too deep into things, we should probably do a plot in 60 seconds.
Nobody knows if you're finished or not. You've got 60 seconds to give them a plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
Do either of you want to attempt this, or should we make Collision do it?
I think I can do it.
Do it.
Yes. Okay.
Just tell me when you want me to start.
Okay.
Feel the power, and you should know that the stakes are unimaginably high here, because this is something like my 100th episode, and I think I've gotten it in 60 every single time.
Sure.
That is to say, maybe once and it was kind of an accident.
Yeah, so don't worry. If you mess up, we just end the show right away.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, so are you ready to try to summarize this book in 60 seconds or less?
I am prepared.
Begin.
So it's the middle of the night, and Wit and Wisty Allgood, a name with no foreshadowing whatsoever, are woken up by soldiers who storm into their house, and the soldiers are from the New Order, which is the new dystopian government, and the two of them are thrown in jail for being a wizard and a witch. And despite Wisty, turning into fire several times, they're very skeptical of this charge. They're found guilty of their crimes, and they're put into a different prison where they have to do, comically absurd tasks to get food and water. And Wit's ghost girlfriend eventually shows up to break them out of the prison through the Shadowland, which is like a purgatory-esque zombie-filled space between worlds. And they make it to the other side to Freeland. All of the names in this book are like this. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole bunch of rebel kids living in a department store, and the kids convince Wisty and Wit to do a prison break to save a bunch of other kids by telling them their parents are in the prison, but they are not. And then I think one of the kids on their side betrays them or something, but then they all get away, so it doesn't matter.
Yep, Jonathan. Jonathan turns him in. Our Jonathan, he's referred to as. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that was probably a little over. I could be wrong. I was so entertained I wasn't watching the clock. So we'll just say yes. Yay! I wanted to mention, you were referring to her as Wisty, which is how she's referred to throughout most of the book. However, she has a full name, which is Wisteria, and her brother's name is Whit, and you mentioned that they were skeptical that their parents were actually wizards. If your name is Wisteria, I'd say there's a greater than 90% chance your parents are into some magic with a K.
Or they met at Bath and Body Works.
Oh, that's possible too.
Well, let's not say anything we can't take back about some parents we don't even know.
Yeah. Well, they also they had a drumstick that was from a very thin stand-in from the Grateful Dead. What was it called? The Groanin' Bones?
I believe that was the Rolling Stones.
Oh.
But we'll come back to that a little later. The least surprising thing in the history of literature is that the parents who I think appear in ghostly Obi-Wan Kenobi form as the kids are being kidnapped by jackbooted thugs, the parents tell the kids, make sure you take that leather-bound book and that drumstick.
Gee, Mom and Dad, why would we need these two things that are shaped vaguely like magical objects?
45 times later through the book, it's I sure am glad I haven't lost this drumstick I don't know why I'm carrying.
The thing that was really, that really stuck out to me about the drumstick in the journal is that specifically when the children are, hauled away by these terrifying soldiers, they're oh, and the rule is you get to take one personal item with you to prison, and I think that's a stupid rule, but I have to follow it. And, as if they were about to appear on Survivor or something, and they got, one item.
Just thinking.
Oh, my God.
But actually, it's jail.
And I mean, when they're in the jail, it's not like they're not tortured and, completely treated like shit by these people. There's no logical reason why these items would not be destroyed at some point. And yet, here we are with the drumstick and the book all the way to the end of the book without anything happening to them.
It's like when you see, the Birdman of Alcatraz's cell and he has that one photo taped up of, the island that he wants to escape to.
It's also
you bought a Walkman at the commissary, but the clear kind so everyone can see what's inside.
It's a little tiny bit Hogan's Heroes, too.
Yeah.
The guard...
A little tiny bit Hogan's Heroes, huh?
The guard all but says, I see nothing.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to get this out of the way because I know I'm allowed to. And you may have been thinking this when you heard the plot in 60 seconds. If you are curious why, yes, this is a 300-page young adult Holocaust metaphor. None of it is explicitly acknowledged. This is a book that decided it is going to use literal genocide as the basis for a story about witches and wizards, but is afraid to say the word hell. And if you don't think that made me furious, you haven't been listening to this show long enough.
Yeah, they cover their tracks pretty well by having characters with names like Whit Allgood, which, let's just say, if that's a, diaspora name, it's pretty fucking assimilated.
Yeah.
But the bad guys have a red, white, and black color scheme.
They wear black uniforms with jackboots, quote unquote. They refer to themselves as the New Order of Humanity, except on the 2 or 3 occasions where our author forgets the name of his villainous group and actually refers to them as the New World Order. It happens at least twice.
Branding is their strong suit, but maybe not consistency being the author's strong suit. There are moments in this book that will make you laugh, if you can laugh at an obvious
it's clumsy enough that even I can laugh at it, yeah.
But when they're driving and they see somebody has a "say yes to the N.O" bumper sticker, I'm not going to lie, I'm not a smart man. I chuckled.
Yeah. There are a few parts kind of funny. There are a lot of parts kind of annoying, but I just want to say I found the whole concept of this book to be kind of detestable. But that's just me. So I just wanted to get that out of the way now. And now we could go into laughing about it.
Exactly. And, since we've already hinted at something you didn't like about the book, maybe now is a good time to pivot to the old high points and low points segment.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
We like to give the compliment sandwich. We'll each start with a high point of something about the book that we liked. Then we'll each go 2 rounds of low points and return with a rousing fanfare of stuff that didn't suck all that hard. And since we are polite gentlemen, we like to let our guests start off. So could one of you lead us in with, and I know this is thin soup, a high point about James Patterson and someone's Witch and Wizard?
I would really love to, because one of my high points relates to what we were talking about before we were talking about the Holocaust, which is my
favorite sentence to say on a comedy show, for sure.
I loved all the fake pop culture references, and I especially loved, and I don't know if you all got to this, because I totally understand just like putting the book down when it was like plausibly over, but if you keep going, there is another epilogue to the epilogue that is a pop culture glossary. Mm-hmm. And it defines all this like fake shit that's in the book. And I'm just going to read to you the glossary entry for the groaning bones, if I may.
Yes.
Oh, yes, because this wasn't in my copy.
Oh, shit.
I listened to the audiobook and that glossary was not in there.
Oh,
I wish
get your money back.
I wish this were audio, because he just did a full-on Tex Avery, eyes popping at the discovery.
There are 3 or 4 of these that I had no clue what they were talking about. So anyway, groaning bones, let's do it.
The groaning bones. Their lineup changed over the many decades they made their so-called rock and roll. But from horrible songs such as Emerald Wednesday to I've Got No Retribution, they were among the most successful bands of their benighted era.
Okay, so you were right, Collision. It was the Rolling Stones and not the Grateful Dead.
I in part know that because I also had the glossary, and there's nothing I love more than a book that's 15 pages shorter than you were afraid it was going to be, and that those extra 15 pages are the jokes you didn't like the first time around being explained to you.
Can I ask a glossary question?
Please.
To the 3 of you?
Yeah.
There's one part in this book where they talk about how cool it is that their parents actually listen to hip hop, and then they list 3 artists, and I could only figure out who one of them was supposed to be. They say from Toaster Face to Ron Sayer to Lay Z. And I'm like, well, I know what one of these is.
Okay,
And
those
I
are
think
in here.
maybe-
I'm very excited
Okay.
actually to read the Ron Sayer one because this is an artist who IRL I fucking hate. He's also not a hip hop artist. He's John Mayer. Ron Sayer, this young blues rock star, somehow won awards, dated superstars, and wowed audiences with songs such as "Your Skin is an Amusement Park."
I kind of like that, and also I do like that it says he somehow did all these things, because that's kind of how I feel about the real John Mayer.
Yeah.
How did this man amuse audiences? I don't know. Toaster Face, my guess was maybe Ghostface Killah. That was like the closest I could come
I think
to.
you got thrown off by assuming that James Patterson knows what hip hop is, which he doesn't, because Toaster Face is Radiohead, which again is not a hip hop.
Oh, my favorite rap group, Tom York and the Boys.
Here, Toaster Face is an alt-rock band that was foolish enough to release an album for free to their fans, thus denying economic benefit to their era's tax collectors.
Jesus Christ.
And
Although,
since I'm here, Lazy
Yeah.
is a rapper whose biting streetwise rap became so successful that he stopped bothering to finish his albums and lost touch with his fans.
That's actually very true.
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation like 2 weeks ago on the show.
So it is really
Ethered by James Patterson.
I know. It's depressing to like run into something in one of these that you really agree with. I want to read one more that I also agree with, which was actually one of the hip hop bands that somehow escaped your notice, which is WWA. Wizards with Attitude.
Oh, no, don't make those jokes.
The seditious group that paved the lamentable road to hardcore wizard rap. And I just want to say, yes, that would have been a very lamentable road.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that documentary about the rock bands that do the Harry Potter thing, and just imagine if they were rapping instead. It's a dark path to walk down. Oh my God. Dude, like, even just jokes about NWA are, at their core, offensive to me.
Fair.
Especially when they're coming from the most milquetoast of all authors. Hast thee another high point?
Yep.
All right, so it was very hard for me to find any high points in this book. I've got to be like 100% honest. This was difficult. But something that did inappropriately make me laugh and like clutch my hair in disbelief a lot was at the hospital where Wit and Wisty are imprisoned. In order to get food and water, they need to fight their way past a bunch of rabid dogs, fill a bucket, and then get back to the other side. And whatever is left is what they're allowed to eat and drink.
Yes, Mark, I'll take the physical challenge.
I want to be mad at it, but it's so stupid.
It's like, welcome to prison. It's basically a game show.
Yeah.
I thought, I guess I'll go next because this is my high point. I thought for sure you were going here. This book contains one of the most obnoxious examples of an author being self-referential that I've ever seen, and I fucking loved it, to the point where it's on page 98. I can't remember. I think it's Wisty says something about, in order to get out of here, we'd have to be able to fly. And it says, kids with wings. Yeah, that's believable. Which is a straight up, for those who don't know, that's a reference to another James Patterson young adult series called Maximum Ride about, wait for it, kids with wings. So, yeah, that was a high point for me, was just like, I can't believe he actually did this. Or whoever actually wrote this book did this.
Fair. Speaking of whoever wrote this book, this is going to get me booted probably not just off this show, but off the opinion-having contingent of humanity. But I liked a lot of the prose of this book, particularly the sub Philip Marlowe's, narration zingers. And I'm going to inflict a few, share a few with all of you. I felt about as magical as a tomato dropping from the roof of a very tall building. I like that. That was fun to read. Why is it that time flies when you're having fun, but when you're behind the wheel plummeting down a flight of steps in a van full of hysterical kids, time virtually stops? The laws of physics are so unfair.
Okay, that one did make me laugh, but mostly because I was thinking about a Dead Milkmen song with a really inappropriate name.
Right?
Sorry, continue.
I'm just going to read one more. I climbed them faster than a bionic squirrel and vowed never to make another rodent-based metaphor ever again.
Okay, that's kind of meta.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk a lot about the books that have the vibe of having been kind of written in real time.
There is an element of this book also, and I don't think any of us have mentioned it because it, by and large, is not enjoyable to read. But it does kind of feel at times like it's making fun of itself, which is always, that's always a plus for me.
For sure.
And I feel like that's part of why the fake pop culture was my high point, because it's like so stupid that I feel like it is self-aware.
See, I couldn't decide if it was self-aware or not.
That's never a good sign.
Yeah, and but I was genuinely just so angry while reading this book continually that I probably gave them like far less credit than they deserved, the little bit of credit that they deserved. But yeah, like all the meta jokes, with the exception of the kids who fly joke, I did chuckle at that, much to my disdain at myself. It was just hard for me to tell, like, is this on purpose or is this them trying so hard to write a cookie cutter dystopian fantasy book that they're inadvertently making fun of themselves?
It's a thin line to walk, and I'm not sure if it was being walked intentionally, but I don't know. You're probably right. I'm probably giving them too much credit, but there did seem to be a small element of self-parody at work, I would say. But once again, it's entirely possible this is just so derivative that it becomes parodical by its very nature.
I genuinely feel that a lot of these were sort of flagged by whoever typed them as, this will get ironed out in the editing process. Somebody will flag this for sure. And that layer of oversight just never came. Speaking of layers of oversight, we've had a lot of fun talking about what we liked, but now it's time to have even more fun by talking about the things about this book that made it feel like you're staring into a mirror that for some reason has written, "I'm with stupid" on it.
Dude, don't make fun of my affirmation.
It's like the opposite of an affirmation. I'm so angry right now.
Hey, look, just because you don't leave yourself Post-it notes to keep yourself cut down to an appropriate level doesn't mean everyone doesn't. Otherwise, I just walk into work like, I'm the best.
I love to wake up, roll over, reach for my glasses, find the Post-it note that last night's collision left for me that says, "Don't forget, you suck and everyone hates you."
That's kind of just how the universe has worked things out for me. All right. Anyway, low points. You two should start. One apiece, we'll go round robin, and then we'll come back around. So we'll have not one, but 2 rounds of low points.
Oh, shit. One of my low points was actually, like, Kate's high point. Was
this happens to us all the time, too.
The thing with the dogs, and just in general, this sort of, like, elaborately pointless cruelty throughout. Like, it made me feel sort of sick to read about. And then it also was just, like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, if sure, I'll buy in, like, you've rounded up these kids, but, like, then just, like, don't feed them. Like, why are you making this, like, so hard and stupid? Like, if you're gonna be a dick to these kids, like, just don't feed them.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if you don't care if they live or die, then don't, provide an elaborate carnival game where they may be able to get sustenance. Just don't feed them.
You're making so much work for yourselves.
And then later on it goes on to say, like, one of the main characters says something like, "I wish they would just do medical testing on me so I could die," and that's another part that made me very fucking angry. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's like, meanwhile, they're like, "Children in ill-fitting gray uniform." I'm like, fuck this! James Patterson, you don't get to do this. Okay, anyway, sorry.
So I guess the first low point that I'll talk about is, conversely, the last scene of the book. which is where Wit and Wisty meet up with like a ghostly version of their parents they find by reciting a childhood rhyme that their parents would say when they came back from vacation. And essentially their parents are like, you're a witch and wizard, and the magical, the seemingly pedestrian items we gave you are actually magical. And the book turns into a spell book, and the drumstick turns into a wand. And also, Wisty, who has the drumstick, is going to be a fabulous musician one day. And Wit, who has the blank book, is going to be a fabulous writer one day. And it just, every single thing about it made me so mad.
You're going to be an amazing musician with that one drumstick. When the rage of silent clave sweeps the nation, you'll be riding at the fucking crest of that wave.
Yeah, it's just so over the top and over determined. It's like, you're going to save the world. Oh, cool. And be a rock star. Oh, now I'm actually excited about this book.
It didn't stop Anne Rice, man. Oh, okay, low points. For me, I just I'm not a huge reader of the young adult world. I don't know a ton of young adult properties because that's what we do now. We don't write books. We have franchises and properties. But this, to me, essentially felt like just about every single young adult novel I've read since we started the show kind of mashed up in like a bowl of despair. It was that, but with like The Maze Runner and Ender's Game and, Maximum Ride and just all of these things that we've read already just kind of crumbled up, and you'd get like 3 chapters of each. Like, oh, now they're escaping from jail. Whoa, now they're in a magical netherworld. Oh, shit, now it's a society where the kids are running everything in a highly codified manner. And it just felt like someone had basically created a girl talk album out of all of the young adult novels I've read before. And I did not like it at all.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And the problem is they then signpost it, which brings me to my first low point. I thought I only had one of these. It turns out this is broken up into prologues, more than one epilogue, and multiple internal books. And the lowest of the low points is that book 2 has the title Very Dickensian.
Yeah.
And to that I might just say, slow your fucking roll, my friends.
Yeah, that's putting a lot on the line there.
And then the others, which I only discovered because I somehow managed to fail to absorb these when I read it the first time, and by the first time I meant the only time. The prologue, You're Not in Kansas Anymore. Book 1, No Crime, Just Punishment. Book 3, Brave New Worlds. Epilogue the first, There's No Place Like Home. We've talked a lot about this, but I just want to drive this home. Book writers, resist the urge to reference much, much, much better books that people could well be reading. It's going to make you sad.
Yeah, it's going to make your readers think halfway through, I could be reading The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So
this is not Dickensian.
No, not at all. However, one thing we didn't mention that I felt the need to bring up, James Patterson, any guesses as to how many chapters are in this book without looking?
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
I just looked, so I can't say, but it's too many.
Yeah, it's 104. Most of which are less than 3 pages, because this is a 300-page book with 104 chapters.
I knew it was over 100 because as we got closer to 100 and we got closer to that first epilogue, I was like, oh, he clearly or whoever cut this up into exactly 100 chapters. And then he didn't. Which
I had that exact thought.
You were right there. You were so close. You were so close to making it look like you put any thought into this.
Okay, so I listened to the audiobook because it came free with my digital copy, and I'm just now noticing the digital copy does have a glossary in it. This motherfucker made fun of They Might Be Giants.
No, though, if you read it, that's more of a loving tribute.
I don't know, man. That made me even more angry. Don't do that.
There's 2 things Jay will not tolerate mockery of. And one is the Holocaust, and two is They Might Be Giants.
Some goofy ass art rock band from Brooklyn that gets way too frequently mislabeled as children's entertainment. Anyway, also the Frida Kahlo joke. Yeah, I didn't like that either.
I mean, they're not all gonna land. All right, I think we're queued up adequately for a second round of low points if we can.
When we were discussing which of James Patterson's many books to do, I mentioned that I hadn't read these, but from what I'd seen of them, it seemed to me like there was kind of an incesty vibe to them. And now having read this, I feel like, yeah, Wisty is like real horny for her brother Wit. And
oh, she is.
That's a low point.
Yeah, it's subtextual for sure, but like just about every scene where Wit describes Wisty, he's like, yeah, she's my little sister. She's pretty cool, I guess. And every scene where Wisty describes Wit, she's like, he's so muscular and handsome and the best on the football team and his rippling biceps and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, she calls him like Mr. Washboard Tummy, which like,
yeah.
Like sub low point. I hate the word tummy. I don't like it. And like I feel like washboard abs is the phrase. Like washboard tummy is not a thing. Wisty.
Yeah. Are we the same person?
I'm trying to think about what a washboard tummy would look like, and I'm imagining it would be really long and have way too many ridges.
Yeah, the only acceptable washboard tummy is like a Muppet with a literal washboard in there.
Or a robot. Yeah.
What was the otter? Emmett Otter's jug band. Yeah. Like he had a washboard tummy.
Especially because like when I think of tummy, I think of like a little chub, not like rock hard abs. Like a tummy is when you got just like a little bit of squishiness there. Kind of the opposite of what you're going for, Wisty. But okay.
If you're shaped like that and you also have definition, then you are quite literally a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, and you've got to assume that it came into the book because the writer is like, oh, right, kid narrator, how can I flag this? Oh, they'll use kid words like tummy while they're talking about the things that interest me, a middle-aged dad, like the Rolling Stones, and abs.
And They Might Be Giants for some reason. When is the last time a teenager has cared about They Might Be Giants? I think it's when I was into them. Or, well, actually, probably now, because now a bunch of people my age have teenage kids they're probably forcing They Might Be Giants upon. Like, well this one's all about science. It'll help you in school.
Well, now there's teenagers who grew up with the They Might Be Giants children's albums.
Yeah, that's true, actually, some of which are very good. Anyway, sorry. Low points. Last one from your side.
So my other low point, I guess, besides everything, would be the frame narrative of it, which is... It starts with, like, the whole all-good family about to be publicly executed, and then there's a real, like, you're probably wondering how we got into this mess moment.
Zach Morris does time out at the camera. Yeah.
And then it, like, circles back to that at the end, even though, with a to be continued, even though that's not where we left off in the narrative.
Yeah, it literally... I noticed this, too. It goes further the first time than where it jumps back to the second time, and everything's different. The only thing that's the same is the setting. It's like the outline for this was not very tightly created or plotted by any means. Like, in the beginning, they're about to get executed, and like they literally are like about to be hung. And then when we come back to it the next time, they're having an argument with the one who is the one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One singular sensation.
I just can't hear any of that shit without thinking about annoying Breaking Bad fans now. I just kept reading it as like, I am the one who is the one, and then they throw a pizza on a stranger's house. All right, my last low point. I'm going to keep it light because I think we all know what my serious low point here is. There's, as we mentioned, there's a lot of attempts to talk like kids talk in this book. And this kind of happened in Maximum Ride, too. Patterson and his legion of ghostwriters tend to think that kids talk like, I don't know, Archie comics. And so there's
not Riverdale.
Yeah,
Archie.
Not Riverdale. Like the actual comic books. There's a lot of lines like, he turned out to be okay, even though I thought he was a total butt. And where was it? I had one more underlined here.
Just Control F, butt.
Yeah, but our hero, Whit, who is a senior in high school, plays on the football team. So I'm imagining it should be also mentioned, just in my usual way where I get mad about bad sports references. He's described as being the largest and most physically intimidating guy on the team, and also the quarterback. To which I say, your football team is gonna suck.
Yeah,
but. He when he gets mad at someone, this complete jock who is almost 18 years old says, "Tough noogie." Yeah. Which, dude, by that age, kids in that social circle, they're saying shit that you wouldn't want to hear come out of anybody's mouth.
I mean, it starts with "eat my shorts," and I don't even want to hint at where it goes from there.
Deeper than the shorts, man. But yeah, tough noogie I really liked. And just one more thing here, supplementary low point. So the one who judges, and this is kind of a deep pull here, but I think if you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I thought of when I read this. This is a description of the evil judge. The one who judges, I assumed, glowered from a high platform right in front of us, his thin, greasy gray hair stuck down to his scalp. The one who judges put tiny glasses on his long beak nose and scaled down at... It's fucking Dan Aykroyd from Nothing But Trouble. Like he's about to send them down a magical slide to the tune of Digital Underground. And Tupac will be dancing in the background. Okay, anyway, I'm done. That's my last low point.
I guess that means I still owe one, and I'm just going to apologize preemptively to everybody for bringing this up. This is out of chapter 101. If you don't want to have a really shitty time, either clap your hands over your ears and start yelling la 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 la, or skip ahead about 30 seconds. But in chapter 101, Wisty is narrating. And this came into a different light for me once you guys kind of pulled the scales from my eyes about Wisty's relationship with her older brother. And the following sentence occurs. Also, poor Whit was seriously pining for Celia, hoping for a dream visit at least.
Oh, no.
I did not need a nocturnal emission joke.
I don't think
in
that's
my
what,
YA novel.
I do not think that's what was being aimed for there. But now that you put it in that light, I can't unhear it.
Yeah. So, low point.
Absolutely.
Over here.
Absolutely. Wow. A night visit from Celia. That's going in my metaphors, my book of metaphors.
Please keep that book shut and locked. I assume it's got the 9-year-old girl style lock and key on it.
It does.
It
has really cute
looks
kittens
like
on the
blank
front.
pages. And when I pick it up, I see the Fire Girl saga.
But when I pick it up, I see, quote unquote, the ultimate book of hot cars, which I totally forgot to mention until just now. I was actually going to lead off the show with saying today we're talking about the ultimate book of hot cars, and I forgot. So.
Oh my God. Yeah, which... Actually, we'll save that for later, but yeah, some of the alternate world jokes beside Groaning Bones and the Fire Girl saga are deserving of notice. Attention must be paid.
So I think it's time for another round of high points to top off the compliment sandwich, if you will, with some mayonnaise of high points.
Oh boy. My other high point, I think, is one of the same high points I pulled for a Maximum Ride, because this is pretty much the highest compliment I can pay to a book, which is that it had a small part that reminded me of the Animorphs series, which I love the Animorphs. There's, among her, like, poorly defined, confusing magical powers, Wisty can turn herself into a mouse, which she does for, like, infiltration reasons, and then there's just a chapter of her narrating from a mouse point of view, and I like that.
I think you mean 700 chapters, but yeah, your point is well taken.
No, you're right. One chapter in a normal book worth of mouse narration, and I liked it.
It was good. One more high point.
So I think my other high point is just the fact that all of the kids have decided they're going to live in a department store, which had a very, like, Dawn of the Dead mixed up files kind of vibe to it.
Either that or that Dane Cook movie where they get locked in after hours and he falls in love. Didn't that happen? Oh, well, whatever. Sorry.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I mean, I know the minute I said Dane Cook movie, like 95% of the people in the world just stopped listening. Employee of the year or something like that? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it just, I love both of those other properties. I love Dawn of the Dead. I love Mixed Up Files. I definitely had that fantasy as a child, walking through the department store, through, like, the furniture section and being like, I could live here. It's fine. There's, like, a popcorn bar over there. I'd be okay. So, yeah, that wasn't too terrible.
Man, that's some serious high praise. It was called Employee of the Month. It was starring Dane Cook. I didn't make this up in a fever dream. I'm really proud of myself. I don't honestly know if it involves people getting locked in a store overnight, though, so whatever.
It's funny because that sounds like the James Patterson parody of Night at the Museum, but apparently it's real in our world.
For me, I guess last high point for sure would just be the audiobook treatment that this book received. I did download and listen to the audiobook so I could do other things like cook and, pretend like I was being productive, draw some pictures for our flyer and stuff.
Work on your magic.
Work on my magic tricks. my close magic, really. Me and David Blaine have this rivalry now, so I really gotta crank it up. And now that Ricky Jay's gone, someone's got to fill that void.
R.I.P.
I've been watching Deadwood. Did you remember he had a giant part in that?
I have never seen even 1 minute of Deadwood.
He has a very, very large role. But anyway, to get back on track, the audiobook is narrated by, for some reason, Tobey Maguire and an uncredited female narrator. And Tobey Maguire does the wit chapters in his Tobey Maguire voice. And what I found really interesting is the beginning, not of each chapter, but of each book, has music and sound effects, but only for about 2.5 minutes, and then they fade out, and then it just becomes a normal audiobook again. But some of the books had a good 30 to 45 seconds between them of just instrumental music that sounded like really bad Portishead, but royalty free. And I found it really heartening to me because I have not become the rock star that I wanted to become when I was a kid. But it's good to know there is a potential career option in scoring interstitial music for audiobook treatments of young adult novels. So I'm going to get on that.
I think we may have some troubles submitting our respective resumes to the James Patterson media empire. But
James, I've read all your books. I hated them.
But good luck to all of us in this endeavor. So my high point is... And this is a reach, and I understand that, but I realized that I hadn't made a Simpsons reference in like 35, 40 seconds. So I started to feel uncomfortable in my own skin. And I just want to read this passage that made me laugh out loud because it reminded me of a very popular and kind of current Simpsons meme. 3 more figures stepped forward from the shadows. 2 of them had guns on their belts. This was really getting out of hand. Guns? Soldiers, in our house, in a free country, in the middle of the night, a school night even. And I just couldn't read that without thinking of the Aurora Borealis at this latitude, localized completely within your kitchen.
That's awesome.
May I see it? No.
Oh, nothing like middle-aged men reciting Simpsons jokes.
Yeah. If you thought the last time when you tried to get your Yahoo password reset that the Monty Python references were too fast and furious, well, wait till you enter Simpsons Town.
I will say that just intoning the words "dogs are outstanding" on an episode a couple weeks ago got us more positive feedback than anything we've said in months. So let's keep them coming hot and heavy.
Fair.
All right, so that's it for high points, low points. I think it's time to take a break. My stomach is growling for some slop, and these ravenous dogs aren't going to evade themselves. So we'll be back in approximately 4 minutes or less.
Yeah, we just got a fetch quest to go get some food.
Yes. Wow. You're right. There are characters in this book that should have a little question mark above their head. Anyway, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. We're discussing J. Pat and his ghostwriting teams. Ghostwrite Killer. Witch and Wizard. Wizard and Witch. I don't know which. One's named Wit.
Oh boy.
Yada yada, etc., etc. Move, witch, get out the way. And it's that time of the show where we play games, much like children in prison. So, so we're going to start this off with the most...
So if I succeed, do I get a food pellet?
Yeah, you do.
Yay!
Was that... I think you're thinking of Who Moved My Cheese.
Well, I'm definitely thinking of the first season of the OA, which I've been rewatching, but the less said about that, the better.
Oh, the second season is out now.
I watched the first one just the other night.
I know what I'm going to do tonight. Watch some whimsical sci-fi. I love that show. Okay, so here is a song.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
So dramatic readings, which I forgot to announce, but that's what we're about to do right now. We take parts of this book, we try to read them dramatically to you, and as usual, we like to start with our guests. So, Kate, would you like to lead us off?
Sure. So this is from one of their many trials that happen over and over again, even though they're in a corrupt system that is going to condemn them anyway, no matter what. And it's a little bit of The One Who Is the One. Hey, I said, in case you haven't noticed, they don't seem to be crawling all over us. Then a booming voice took over the courtroom. Stop! Stop this kindergarten nonsense. No more flies, no more leeches, no more uncivil disturbances of any kind. Suddenly, I felt weak in the knees, numb, paralyzed, actually. I remembered the feeling. How could I forget? He was there. He just appeared, and he'd already ruined everything. The stuffy decorum, the new order, the boring sameness. It was all back in place. I am the one who is the one. Just in case you forgot or possibly repressed the memory. He strode forward until he was right on top of Wit and me. I have been observing you here in this court, back at the hospital. You see, young'uns, I am everywhere, and obviously I am all-powerful and you are not. He looked at Wit and actually gave a wink. I can even shut your sister up. So who can doubt my power? Now, there will be more tests, until we find the answer I'm looking for, until we solve the puzzle of the all-goods. I want to know about their power. Anti-gravity, healing, immortality, physical transformation, telekinesis. Take the prisoners back to the hospital and no more Mr. Nice Guy tactics. Double their workload, double the tests, double the discomfort. I want answers. Witch Terrier, is there anything you would like to say? Anything at all? Perhaps you're offended by the phrase kindergarten nonsense, which I use to describe your paltry tricks here today.
Shut up, asshole!
Well, you know the famous saying. Of course you do. Tricks are for kids. Get them both out of my sight.
This guy goes from mustache twirling to just like scenery chewing to just I don't know how to describe it. It's like he starts off as somewhat sinister and by the end it's like, Jesus Christ, just shut up.
I know I think these words all the time, but there's only 4 words I know to respond to that, monocle gleaming villain soliloquy, and that would be, "Fuck off, Billy Corgan."
Maybe you forgot, or maybe you've just repressed it. Although I agree with our narrator about the boring gray sameness of New Order. Like, definitely a singles band. Their albums got pretty tough to get through.
Oh, we are fighting now.
Oh, cool. Now's the part of the show where we talk about music for a long time, right?
Right.
No, it's not. Renata, do you have a dramatic reading?
I do. This comes, well, just about 2/3 of the way through. It's chapter 66. And Wisty has kindly decided to give you, the reader, a recap in case you, like, spaced out and forgot what was happening, which was helpful because I did.
It's incredibly likely.
Chapter 66, page 95. Time for a recap.
So, let's review. Number 1. I, everyday ordinary Wisty, am a witch. Washboard tummy wit is a wizard. We don't exactly know how to control our powers. Number 2. Wit and I were sentenced to death by an insidious individual named the One Who Is the One. 3. And my parents are wanted for treason. And we still have no idea where they are, or whether they are still alive. 4. We were tortured in a magic-dampening prison, so possibly we're more powerful than we even know. 5. A dead girl, who just happens to be the true love of my brother's young life, showed up mysteriously and rescued us from prison. 6. I turned Byron Swain into a weasel. That I'm very proud of. 7. The world is actually plural, not singular. Between the Shadowland, Freeland, Overworld, and Underworld, it's hard not to lose count. And that's 4. Alright. 8. And one of those worlds is being run by a bunch of kids from the manager's desk in a semi-demolished department store. It isn't paradise, but at least it's a place where freedom still reigns. 9. I am being asked to help orchestrate a prison raid that might save kids from being vaporized. But maybe not. Actually, it might get all of them killed.
This is like the worst constructed monologue that would happen at the beginning of a Nickelodeon show, like, "Hey, dude." Like, all right, everyone pause for a minute. Let's review. Then, like, 10 minutes later and 2 commercial breaks.
You have to respect, or at least acknowledge, an author who just sort of drops the pitch sheet into the book halfway through.
And also, like, in the midst of all this, like, fairly banal stuff, is just like, oh yeah, by the way, multi-dimensional string theory, that's a thing. So, fuck you, Einstein.
It's like with it being so close to being 100 chapters evenly, which would be, like, sort of satisfying. This is a 9-item list.
You couldn't just do 10, like, I don't know, like...
Come on, man.
I mean, it's supposed to be, like, what, she's 14? Yeah. Like, 10 could have just been about, like, how her favorite singer rules or something.
Yeah, 10 could have been how much she loves Ron Sayer and Your Skin is Amusement Park.
Exactly.
10 could have been My Brother's Skin is an Amusement Park.
Well, I mean, at that age, it is pretty bumpy. It's a wild ride, folks. Strap in for Magic Mountain. That's what I call the giant zit on my forehead.
It's a maximum ride.
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, that's for the skin of one such as you or I or Wisty. Obviously, Wit has perfect skin.
That's true. I was never the largest, most physically intimidating quarterback on the football team. So. Which, by the way, just to reiterate, there's a whole group of players on a football team whose job it is to protect the quarterback by being larger and more physically intimidating than he is.
It's almost like this book was written by one middle-aged man and one elderly man who are not quite sure what the audience for this book might actually be interested in hearing about.
That Cam Newton fella's pretty muscular, isn't he?
Yeah. I bet the girls all love him.
We should talk about the co-author on this, because you mentioned something earlier off mic that I found really fascinating, in that depending on the source, there's different people listed as the co-author.
Does everybody have their copy of the book in front of them?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does it say on the cover of everybody's book?
Hang on. Gabrielle Charbonnet.
That's me too.
Okay.
I'm on the Kindle, and it won't let me look at the cover. But it does say Gabrielle Charbonnet on the inside.
That's interesting because when you read it electronically, at the end it will pop something up for you about how you should rate and review the book. And by the way, there's many other things in the archive in the series that you could consume. And there, I believe it's listed as Ned Rust. And this could have been just a transcription error, but at one point, I thought I had identified this as being co-authored by Kait Tiernan.
Well, okay, so I just Googled, and that was the bombshell I just had dropped to me, is that Kait Tiernan is Gabrielle Charbonnet's pen name. So those two are the same.
Whoa.
Whoa, so she dropped the pen name to put her real name to this?
I guess.
Except
because I've heard of Kait Tiernan.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar to me, too. Wow.
I mean, it sounds not unfamiliar, but it also sounds like it came from about page 47 of appealing pen names.
That's true, yeah. It's right up there with Ned Russ. Oh, no, wait, that's horrible.
Oh, guys, I solved the riddle. I've done it. Gabrielle Charbonnet only co-wrote the first one. Ned Russ picks up ghostwriting with book 2, Witch and Wizard: The Gift.
Oh, so come back next week where we dive into that to see how different it probably is.
No. Never again. Is the next one the one where, the American wizards are going to join forces and then maybe have like a really pulse-pounding raid on, say, Dunkirk or something like that?
Let's find out.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
dramatic readings.
Yes.
Collision.
Sorry, we should get back to that. I'm going to read from chapter 92 where Wisty just goes off. The jackbooted bullies forged into the crowd of children I'd released from their cells, swinging clubs and firing stun guns with unfathomable cruelty. The sight of 200-pound-plus guards manhandling, beating, and hurting children, some of them a quarter their size, is something I will have nightmares about for the rest of my life. At the time, it sickened me, almost past the point of out-rage. Every cell in my body seemed to boil with anger, and then, whoosh. And I mean, whoosh.
No, seriously. Whoosh.
Familiar 2, 3, and 4 foot flames once again swirled around me. The Flame Girl Strikes Back. Okay, side note, you couldn't fucking call the book that. You had to call it Witch and Wizard, the laziest book title of all time. Anyway, still, it wouldn't have made a lick of difference had I not had a massive stroke of luck right then. The lucky strike was that I was right under a smoke alarm. And time was, the people in charge of the world actually put a value on human life and put in a safety precaution so that not everybody in the prison would die in a massive fire. The new order in taking over a jail that had been created by a society based on fairness and justice had neglected to realize that the fire alarms in the prison automatically opened all the interior doors, including the doors to the cells themselves. And so, as the smoke alarm added its siren wail to the cacophony all around us, I charged the guards, leaving fiery footprints everywhere I stepped. I had to lead the kids out of here, and that meant I had to clear a path. The guards didn't put up much resistance. I charged down the hallway after them all the way to the next cell block before they met reinforcements and tried to stand their guard. One guard was shouting orders into a walkie-talkie. The others had stun guns and nightsticks at the ready. I took a deep breath and remembered what the kid had said. They're afraid of all of us. Well, They clearly were at least a little afraid of a furious 15-year-old firebrand flying toward them with her arms spread wide, screeching like a total maniac, "Fire really, really hurts. And I'm a bad, scary witch."
Which is a refrain in this book, by the way. Bad, scary witch.
I'm a bad, scary witch. So, yeah, this book sucked rocks, but I just got to read I'm a bad, scary witch into a microphone, so...
I'm a bad, scary witch, and I bring you fire. Fire. All right, anyway, sorry. So for my dramatic reading, I'm going to talk a little bit about the uprising that happens here against our new world order. Hang on.
Wait, you mentioned it earlier. Did we just all get incepted?
I think you did. So here, some kids, they've been captured. They're starting to realize they can turn to... Finally, the tables have started to turn because we are talking about a revolution. And here we go. Margot's eyes filled with angry tears. She'd made me feel stronger before, and I wanted to make her believe that everything was going to be okay, even if it really wasn't. Words sprang into my brain. I didn't know where they came from. Margot, they're afraid of us. They're afraid of everything. And then I kept on talking without really thinking until it turned into a chant. They're afraid of change, and we must change. They're afraid of the young, and we are the young. They're afraid of music, and music is our life. They're afraid of books and knowledge and ideas. They're most afraid of our magic. Short aside, really bad chant.
Yeah.
Long-time
Very clunky.
Long-time listeners will know that I'm a union guy. I spend a certain amount of my time on picket lines doing chants. One of the helpful things about a chant is when you can sort of clap in time with it.
When there's a rhythm or it rhymes.
When every line isn't radically different in length from the one before.
I really like also they're afraid of music and music is our life because up until now, not a single character in this book is a musician. Anyway, so...
Well, they only have one drumstick.
Yeah. That doesn't even make a sound unless you're philosophical about it.
I mean, I shouldn't go there, but like at some point is one of the lines in the chant, they like all the girls to be the same. We're not like other girls.
They laugh at us because we're different. Yeah. We laugh at them because they're all the same. All right. So continuing, Margot stared at me and sniffled. Her eyes wide, but the tears were gone. I scooped up Wisty, who was unconscious and nearly weightless in my arms, and I said the words again, louder and more forcefully this time. They're afraid of us! They're afraid of everything! They're afraid of change, and we must change. They're afraid of the young, and we are the young. Heartache to heartache we stand. No promises, no demand. No, that last part I... Silence! Roared George Unger. Sorry, it's not George. Silence! Roared Judge Unger, his pitched beetle's face turning a shade of funereal purple. Wait till I get my hands on you again, the matron snarled at his side, her icy eyes narrowing into thin slits that wouldn't take a dime. I don't think so, matron. Not going to happen, I said. Actually, you are petrified of us, and you should be. We have the magic. You don't. The next time I spoke the words, everyone, Margot, Emmett, Janine, the prison kids, everyone but Jonathan, repeated them with me. They're afraid of us. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of change, and we must change. They're afraid of the young, and we are the young. They're afraid of enough! More than enough, actually. Judge Unger pounded his fist into his hand, then raised it as if he would hit me. The witch and wizard must be put to death at once! In my arms, my sister suddenly opened her eyes. I stared at her in amazement. I'm just going to stop there because they repeat the chant at least 6 more times. But yeah, when you're basically doing Pat Benatar's Love is a Battlefield and not realizing it, once again, not the best, getting people pumped up.
There's also that Whisper to a Scream song that I remember from, I don't think it was actually on the Breakfast Club soundtrack, but I think it was Breakfast Club soundtrack adjacent. Like, did you remember? We are something children.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
We're the kids in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of these could fit right into it. But apparently, the way you get the New Order to back down is by, repeating arrhythmic and non-rhyming lyrics at them, which is actually interesting because in my notes here, I forgot about halfway through. I had a revelation when our heroes discover how to make their magic actually work. The secret to spells, they have to rhyme.
What?
Nobody in this book can successfully do a magic thing until they figure out a way to say it that rhymes.
Don't skip poetry class, kids.
Seriously. It also means, like, a lot of these old rappers, dude, you gotta watch out. Like, you don't want to get in a magical spell battle with the Black Sheep. They're gonna win. Anyway, so moving on, I think it's time to play a different game. Let's do a What Would They Do? Here is a song.
Sometimes the tensions are hard to define, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
All right, so what would they do? We normally try to put ourselves in the shoes of characters from the book. In this case, I think what we're going to do is a little bit different, because I guess this is more kind of a putting ourselves in the author's shoes, which we've been known to cheat occasionally and do this. And so I'm posing a question to the three of you. I have an answer myself. I'll save it till the end. But as we mentioned, one of the personal items, which our heroes are allowed to take to prison for some reason, is an empty journal that when you open it up, until they discover its true nature, shows you whatever it is you most want to read about. So starting with you, Collision, what would this book show you?
This would be extremely depressing for me because it would be a book I've already in fact read called Secrets Revealed by Martin Popoff, an album-by-album, track-by-track guide to the works of the Blue Oyster Cult. And while it would be soothing to be able to reread this scintillating account of my favorite band and their ups and mostly downs over a very long career, I don't think it would help me foment revolution too much.
Well, neither would the Ultimate Book of Hot Cars, so... Kate, how about you?
For going with something that does actually exist, it would probably, I'm not ashamed to say, start revealing to me some fan fiction by some of my favorite authors. If we are going with something that could, in a fantasy world, exist, I am always dying for well-written young adult horror novels with queer protagonists, of which there are not very many. So... either one of those, depending on what the rules of the game are.
I think both work. That's fine.
I mean, it's a magic book revealing what your soul needs. I think it's reasonable to posit your soul might need different things at different times and places.
I mean, it happens in the book, right? Different times he opens it up, or Wisteria opens it up. There's different content. It just depends on where you're at, man.
So it's like your e-reader. Is your mind blown yet?
Except when you open up this book, it's not advertising a horrible cozy mystery to you. Okay, Renata.
I would open it up and I would see the freshest new Marvel Comics event, and it's a crossover between all of the characters who own cats, and it's just like Carol Danvers and her cat Chewie/Goose. It's Gambit and his cats. It's Black Widow, and her cat Leho, and they would just get together, and it would be kind of like the Babysitters Club but of cats. And it's that. And I would get to read it.
This would make me care about comic books, like, for real. I'm like, why did Hawkeye have a cat? Hawkeye should have a cat.
Hawkeye has a dog.
Oh,
Hawkeye's dog
pizza
could
dog.
come. Yeah. The Winter Soldier just got a cat in his new, like, reboot or whatever. He can come.
Wow, they understand the market for that character.
I was just going to say, I'm glad Marvel's finally realized what readers actually want.
Yeah.
More of that hot cat content we all crave.
You know, the cat posse is present.
Oh, no. We mentioned Tobey Maguire earlier, so...
I thought they were just getting into cat power. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. I'll be here all night.
Oh, Jesus.
Side note, before we move on, Jay, you mentioned that we've got to step into James Patterson's shoes.
I still haven't done mine yet.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which, it's just really simple.
Yeah.
It would be the White Pages guitar tab of hair metal hits from the 1980s. So, like, just a large book that has, you know, all of the solos transcribed to, like, Extreme, Britney Fox, Skid Row, stuff like that. That's what I would need to get me through. Because when I was a kid, many times, even when I wasn't somewhere where I had a guitar, I would still read the guitar tab and imagine in my mind how I was going to play it when I got home. Usually sounded much better. But yeah, I would definitely be looking up some some Bon Jovi hits and like, oh, that's how you play that riff. Cool.
Nice.
All right.
Sorry. Quick side note before we move on. You mentioned stepping into James Patterson's shoes. I think we should all imagine what those shoes probably are.
Oh, this is easy for me. Because James Patterson is a man of a certain age. And he's also a man who's not afraid to, have a casual side.
Uh-huh.
We're talking New Balance all the way.
Kate?
Oh, God. I would say probably old man house slippers.
Ooh, that's better.
Renata?
I don't like loafers, like men's like loafers, I guess.
This is important though, like the soft leather kind or like the dress loafers that are painful to wear.
Like my dad had this pair that were like 500 years old, and they were they had been brown, but their actual color was like cracked, like just whatever color cracks are, and they had like a tassel.
Well broken in tasseled loafers. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, I now realize I don't have an answer myself other than that's got a mock toe 100%.
Yeah, I was thinking he maybe when James Patterson goes out, say, to the seafood restaurant that he spends a lot of time writing his first drafts at, he might wear kind of like a pseudo wingtip, but with a very pointy toe that his real toes don't actually fill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this book, like most of the James Patterson oeuvre, brought to you by the Early Bird Special.
I figured James Patterson would have lots of great advice, like you never order the prime rib the first time you go to a restaurant, right? You gotta make sure everything else there is okay before you order the prime rib. Because the worst thing in the world is shitty prime rib. So you gotta test the waters first. I feel like James Patterson would have a lot of, dining out guides like this.
Don't give him any ideas. I cannot handle if he starts to infiltrate other genres. Like if I start seeing travel guides written by James Patterson.
But it's just like a write-up of a Denny's in like every town he's been to. Because I put James Patterson on the same cultural level as, say, a Denny's or a Ponderosa, which, those don't exist anymore. What's the other one? Golden Corral? he's the Golden Corral of fiction. So I feel like a James Patterson travelogue would, probably be about Branson, Missouri, and just a review of chain restaurants.
Oh.
Like, this Applebee's was a letdown. All right.
Sorry. I believe you all had a game for us to play as well.
Yeah, it's another kind of putting ourselves in James Patterson's questionable shoes game. Or I guess you could come at it from the point of view of if you were a character in this world, like who would your favorite fucked up pop culture person be? Like instead of John Mayer, it's Ron Sayer. Like who would your thing be?
Oh, I've got one.
Go for it.
I would definitely be reading Why People comics. Those bands of teens who have special powers. Totally would fit right in as a reference dropped in the middle of the narrative here and then in the glossary.
Everybody at home missed it, but watching that pun slowly dawn over Collision's face was magical.
I regret and resent how long it took me to get that. But so I've got a twofold one.
Okay.
I would not only be a character in the James Patterson-verse, I would be a character based on Jay.
Oh, no.
In the James Patterson verse. And my favorite person would be from PGE, Planet Grappling Extravaganza, their biggest star of all time, one of the few who crossed over into the mainstream, a tanned but balding headband enthusiast who came to very bad ends late in his career.
Is he a hot dog colored racist?
Yeah, and his name is Bulk Bogan.
Surprisingly close to when Mad Magazine did
Yeah.
the WWF. They had bulk blowgun, I believe. But yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
that's good. I'm glad it didn't go any other way, or else it could have gone. I guess I'll go next since I've been called out. I think for me, I would probably be enjoying the comedy of Benny Moose. Let's say a humanoid moose. He's been changed via magic, but still has a voice, speaking truth to power in the 1960s with a series of routines about politically charged topics that don't hold up very well in the year 2019. Okay, so that's me.
That sounds great. I personally, in the real world, I'm a big fan of Kesha, who has dropped the $ from her name, and it's just an S now here in our world. But I think in this world, I would really like an artist called Sesha, which is spelled with a cent symbol for a C. So it's cent symbol ESHA, and I'd be really into Sesha.
Renata, have I ever played you the episode of Gravity Falls where they do the karaoke song by Ampersandra?
No, but that sounds great.
I love that. Oh, okay. You know what? I think we're done with games.
I'm all mirthed out.
Games are over.
They are. It came to a grisly end when I succumbed to the rabid dogs.
I was exactly. I was running down the hall, bucket of slop in my hand.
Yeah.
I slipped and fell and was consumed.
I juked when I should have spun, and next thing you know, it's all over. So we're going to take another break, and we're going to come back, talk about things we actually liked. So stay tuned. All right, greetings again, listeners and total butts. We are talking about Witch and Wizard. I'm never going to remember this unless I have it open in front of me. A book about a brother and a sister who are a witch and a wizard by James Patterson. Except, we're almost done. I think maybe now's a good time if anyone has any kind of last thoughts they wanted to get in there before we move on and pretend this thing never existed.
Well, I think jumping right off of your inability to remember the title, it's because the title is so nondescript. This entire book, and I say this a lot on our show, that something feels very first drafty, and that is exactly what this book feels like. Like somebody in the James Patterson, realm of ghostwriters was like, all right, I'm going to pump out a dystopian fantasy novel just real quick, and then maybe on Monday I'll get in and I'll kind of flesh it out a little bit, but then they forgot about it and the deadline hit and it was time to quick come up with a title. Witch and Wizard? Sure, let's go with it. And throw it in. Because so much of this feels very like nothing makes sense and nothing is explained. It's your knowledge of what these books are actually like that propels you through the plot, not any actual world building.
I mean, seriously, I have a note in this there's a character named Sasha we haven't mentioned. Literally, my note is Sasha a maze runner? Because that's the way he's introduced. It's like, it expects you to do the heavy lifting. Like, you're familiar with these genre tropes. Here's a list of them with no detail. I agree 100%. I think it feels like a first draft, but it also, I feel like this and Maximum Ride both were sort of like trying to tap into this kind of, like you're a teenager and you feel powerless and everything's confusing and doesn't make sense. And like, that's a very powerful and valid emotion to power your young adult series, but it also just feels like James Patterson and his ghostwriters also don't understand how the world works. To come back to the Hunger Games, which this obviously wants to be, but the Hunger Games is sort of something that on Worst Bestsellers we're always coming back to as something that really did figure out this world building way in a way that James Patterson has not grasped. Where you have this scenario where
it's cruel, and it puts the teens in this impossible situation where they have to make these hard decisions, and it doesn't make sense, these choices that they have to make. But then you peel it back and you see how how it does benefit the people in power to have this all play out. And granted, we did not read the whole series of Witch and Wizard or Maximum Ride, but I don't think he ever got there. And I think he's just like, yeah, like teens like it when bullshit happens and it's grown-ups' fault, right?
You might almost say that the Hunger Games book were written with care and thought, whereas these were churned out by a soulless empire of fiction with one man's name loosely attached to them. It's worth mentioning, now this is the fourth Patterson book we've done as a crossover duo. I'm now getting emails that are saying, next month, coming from James Patterson, it's like 3 books.
Yeah. And actually, I saw you talking about this on Twitter earlier. We should just have the conversation. Out of the Patterson books we've read, 3 of which belong to distinct genres, right? Let's just go ahead and rank them.
Okay. Shit. For me, this is at the dirt bottom. This is has dug a hole so deep that the others are standing on top of it with years of history wedged beneath them. You could find dinosaur bones in the space between this book and number 3, which to me would probably be, I've already forgotten the name, but the serial killer book that we read last time.
Murder Games.
Oh.
Murder Games, yeah. And then Maximum Ride. And then whatever the fucking thriller mystery one was that we did the other time around.
No, Suzanne's Diary for Nicholas.
Oh, shit. No, that was him. See, in my mind, I had filed that away as Nicholas Sparks. Shit, okay, so I guess...
He fucking wishes it was Nicholas Sparks.
So I guess Maximum Ride is number 1 for me. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Because, I will say Suzanne's Diary for Nicholas or whatever the fuck is still better than this. At least it seems like it understands its audience a little more. This book is very much turning its hat around backwards, sitting on a chair, and he's about to rap to the kids about the dangers of drugs and gangs. It's there's a lot of greetings, fellow teens going on here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is definitely the lowest for me. But
what do you guys think?
Yeah, yeah. Why don't you rank them?
Yeah, well, I hammered this out on Twitter earlier with Renata, and cutting out the ones that we have also done separately on our show, just through these 4. This is definitely the worst for me, by far. Next for me, number 3 is Maximum Ride. Then the Nicholas Sparks ripoff, which was terrible, but not awful. And then first for me is Murder Games, because I'm just so fucking easy for any mystery book with a queer person in it. Fucking bring them to me.
Also, murder murder is what Patterson is actually, if he's good at anything, that's what he's good at.
Yeah, murder thrillers.
There's some skill there, and there's some care there.
That's what he wrote before he became an empire. When he was still a person writing books, that's what he specialized in.
Totally.
And that's fertile ground for him. It's what he excels at. So yeah, I see that for sure.
Yeah.
I would say, and now I'm wondering if I'm misremembering, but I just had such a viscerally terrible, grossed out memory of Maximum Ride that it is my least favorite of these.
Wow.
And I like this one more. Maximum Ride I would put 4. I'd say this 3. I'll put Murder Games at number 2, and Suzanne's Diary for me comes at number 1. Although I think of its genre, Suzanne's Diary is a worse member of that genre than Murder Games is of the mystery thriller genre. But I don't really like mysteries to start out with. Mm-hmm. So if I'm gonna read some trash, at least some kind of romantic trash, I guess I'll take that as my number 1 pick.
Yeah, I think and it's all blurring for me because I've read at least one too many of these.
You might say he's a little tropey.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go with sort of variables and placeholders. Murder greater than romance greater than teen.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So guess by default Murder Games, and then Suzanne's Diary, and then I have almost no memory of Maximum Ride, but I have remember one or two images from it. Like, I think I remember an angel girl strafing some people in a department store.
Yeah, they blow up a cabin.
And
A restaurant.
Yeah, it's a restaurant, and
the
they throw
restaurant,
bread
yeah.
at people, which is pretty cool.
And I literally, like, we've been talking about this for over an hour, and I would not be confident in my ability to name any two characters from this book. So I've got to put this last just in terms of, like, phone it in genericness.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe to me, I just noticed it more than everyone else, and maybe it's not even intentional, but the fact that this book is basically the diary of Wizard Anne Frank pissed me off so fucking much that, like, this is probably among the least favorite of any book I've ever read, because it takes a very, very serious piece of history and then recasts it as, like, hey, magic, yada, 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 and it just upset the hell out of me. But anyway, enough of that.
Just from a publishing standpoint, like, I agree that it's a huge wannabe knockoff of more popular things, but it doesn't seem to have done the work of reading those things. It sort of read the backs of the books, and, like, you can really imagine the index card this was pitched on, which is like, what if Harry Potter but a girl with a brother in a Hunger Games dystopia?
And it lampshades the shit to the point where there's a fake Harry Potter in the book. It's like Gary Blotter in the something, or like Magazine style. It's, anyway. Okay.
Is there other stuff that we haven't talked about that the people need to know? Because I think it's safe to say that probably none of us are going to say you should go read this.
One important thing I think we need to mention is that the reason these children are being held in prison is because there's a law that says they cannot be executed until they're 18 years old. And at one point, Wisteria has a nightmare that her brother is turning 18 and they're about to execute him, and they sing Happy Birthday. But the words are Happy Death Day, much like the very popular new series of cheap budget-ass lame horror movies. And what's interesting is the book had the lyrics transcribed. The audiobook, they did not sing the song. And at first I was like, oh, is this because of the movie? And then it made me remember that Happy Birthday is copyrighted, and the woman who owns the copyright is notoriously litigious. So I thought it was kind of funny that the audiobook completely omits, they're just like, they were singing a song, next chapter. And whereas the book has Happy Death Day to you, Happy Death Day to you. So, they were smart enough to realize they would get the pantsuit off them for that. So, big ups to HarperCollins or whoever the fuck put this out. I don't know.
Happy Birthday's finally out of copyright, so they could re-release this audiobook in the way it was intended to be.
So I could hear Tobey Maguire sing Happy Death Day?
Yeah.
Sweet.
James Patterson's final vision revealed. Anything y'all have weighing on you that the people have to hear about from Witch and Wizard and so forth?
I don't think so. I mean, I could sit here and talk about what garbage it is for another 2 or 3 hours, but we've all got lives to get back to.
Yeah, non-James Patterson related lives.
Yeah.
Fair.
I think there's some static I could be watching on TV right now.
Yeah, I think my closing thought is just like a frown face emoji.
I'm right there with you. A frown face emoji, and then all caps, you don't get to do this, James Patterson. But, yeah.
Can you imagine turning in a manuscript and it comes back to you, say, 5 weeks later, and you're flipping through page after page after page looking for notes, and there's nothing, but on the last page, all there is just a little frowny face.
I can imagine it. I think we all could imagine it. I don't think James Patterson could. Because apparently, once you put the name Patterson on something, anything goes.
Yeah. All right, so do we have... Is there any meat inside this nut? Is there any moral to this story?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. We have guests on from another illustrious Bad Books podcast, so I think it's important we rip off one of their segments. what is the moral to this story? Can anyone think of one? It's hard because it's a sprawling narrative.
Always know where your drumstick is.
It's true. No matter what kind of drumstick you're talking about, too. It could be the kind you play drums with, could be fried chicken, could be one of those delicious ice cream cones. Keep track of that shit.
I think I'm actually ripping this moral off from one of the other... Well, really, it could be one of many other books we've read, which is basically rich white men can basically do whatever they want and no one will stop them.
Is that a moral of the story or the moral of the making of this book?
Could go either
It applies
way.
to both, yeah. Collision?
Yeah, keep your hand on your wand is a very, very good one. But I guess if
No one said keep your hand on your wand, my friend.
well, just know where your wand is. I guess the moral of the story is if you sell out your sister and get turned into a weasel, just hang out with the people who turned you into a weasel, because eventually that spell will be undone and you'll be their boon companion in a subplot I don't think we talked about nearly enough for how what the fuck it
you mean
truly
when
was.
the Nazi collaborator gets turned... the New Order collaborator gets turned into a weasel and then decides he's going to follow the kids around and then becomes their friend?
Yeah, so just keep showing up and eventually all will be forgiven. I guess that's really the moral of the story.
So for me, I think as put eloquently by a street punk band called Sham 69, ultimately, when the kids are united, they will never be divided. That's about it. And, to a lesser extent, or perhaps greater, depending on who you are, as Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff put it, parents just don't understand. Okay, so it's time for us to recommend things that we actually liked instead of this book. So why don't we start with you guys, Renata?
I'm going to recommend an older... Well, the first book came out a long time ago, and the sequel came out more recently. It's Akata Witch and Akata Warrior by Nnedi Okorafor, and it's a young adult book about a witch that's actually very good and very interesting. It's the kind of, in a nutshell, tagline that it gets is that it's like the Nigerian Harry Potter, which is kind of reductive, but also useful. Like, it's a magic training school in Nigeria, and it's based on like Nigerian culture and folklore, and it's hella
cool.
good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
So my recommendation, I actually did mention it earlier in this episode, but it's depression season, and my depression crutch this year is, as it has been in years past, Gravity Falls, which is a great cartoon series that used to run on Disney. It has 2 seasons. It's all streaming on Hulu, and it is the perfect level of like funny, fun, and you actually have to think about this to keep my mind off of other things happening.
I've had this recommended to me many times, and I think I actually bought the first season and haven't started watching it yet, just because other things kept getting in my way. But I need to put it on my list because I've heard it compared to like really strange things like Twin Peaks and Lost, which pretty interesting. I don't know, so I'll give it a shot. It is now my turn to recommend a thing. I'm going to be late to the party as well. Because as we know, we've all been so busy paying attention to the Spider Course and the Spider Bridge that we may have lost track of the Spider-Verse, which I just watched. That was so pained. I'm sorry, everyone. That took a lot of work. I just watched Into the Spider-Verse last night.
We've all been waiting for the spider hook to come back.
No, well, the Blues Traveler guy's in jail now, or no, I don't think he is. He was for a while. Whatever. Either way, he sexually harasses people on Twitter. Fuck that guy. So, Into the Spider-Verse is a movie that has just won major awards, so I don't think I'm telling most of you things you don't already know, but as people know who listen to the show, I am the token guy who doesn't know much about comics or really care that much about them. I was not expecting to enjoy this movie beyond just something to have in the background, and I found myself completely delighted for 2 hours. It is so much fun, and there are cameos in it that made me clap and cheer like a toddler. Characters that I forgot existed. And I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll know it when it happens. So, yeah. I literally was on the couch bouncing up and down going, yay! Collision.
And you should stick around for the credits, because I didn't love it, but I also think I didn't really get it. But a couple of the voices were not recognizable to me.
Was one of them Nick Cage?
Spoilers, dude. I was just telling people to stick around for the credits.
I didn't say who he plays, but it surprised me to find out that Nick Cage was in this movie.
Yeah, same. Extremely same.
Although apparently, if you have the DVD extras, the director relates an amazing story where they weren't getting the performance they wanted out of Nick Cage and told him that, and his response was to ask, "Oh, so do you want me to go full Cage then?" So apparently he's completely aware of this.
Oh no, he knows.
Yeah. I'm still convinced that he's in on the joke a lot more than people give him credit for. And after watching Mandy, he's earned a lot of goodwill from me. So anyway, yeah, sorry. But I was going to say, I thought you were talking about the stinger scene after the credits, which is the first time I think I've ever cared about a stinger scene after the credits. So. Oh,
shit. Apparently I need to rewatch the credits, because I don't know if I made it that far.
It is very good.
It's great.
Excellent. I see, that's why we get together and talk about bad books, because sometimes it gives you something to look forward to. Because heck knows I don't want to look back on this book. So I'm going to do sort of a twofold recommendation. By happenstance, I happened to be a little blue over the last couple of weeks and was flipping through the can download hit play now section on the audiobook section of my library app, and it served up something that treated me very well last time I was in a similar mood, Volume 2 of the Hunger Games series. So I happened to have listened to that just before encountering this.
Oh, good. Like, raise your expectations and then plummet off a cliff.
Well, this is a qualified recommendation. Like, I did like and respect the first one a lot. The second one I liked enough less that unless somebody here tells me, nah, you need to do the third, I might not. Then again, I probably will in a couple of months when I'm feeling shitty again anyway. But like, if anything about this book sounds good to you, no, just go back to the source. It will treat you roughly infinitely better, in my opinion. Actually, while I have the experts here, should I go on to the third?
I liked them all.
Okay.
I mean, the ending is controversial among fans, but I don't know. Don't you want to know how it ends? I guess if you genuinely, I don't give a shit how this ends, that's on you, but I, couldn't wait to get to it.
Yeah, I genuinely think the third one is stronger than the second one.
Okay.
But it is fucking dark.
Exactly what I needed to hear was stronger than the second one, and I probably should have admitted that, like a huge amount of America, I have seen the movies, so some of the pure pull of the narrative is a little bit lessened for me. What I really liked was the world, and I thought the world was slightly more interesting in the first and the second. But, the third is stronger than the second. Again, all I needed to hear.
I would also say that the third diverges from the movie a lot more than the second one does as well. So there's still some surprises for you.
Excellent. So my other recommendation is going to be even more intensely on brand than Guy Late to Thing.
I'm like, so what did you read on the internet?
Yeah. It is a slim volume that I'm not entirely finished with, but I got here on time instead of finishing it. And it is by Maggie Nelson, and it is called Bluets. And it is not entirely like anything I have ever read. It's sort of a cross between a philosophical treatise, a book of poetry, and letters to a wide variety of people. And the nominal topic is being in love with the color blue.
Well, that just lost all relatability for me.
And
is that the one that looks like purple or the one that looks like gray? Anyway. God damn it, so much color-based media out there.
I know, sorry. Again, it's not like anything else I've ever read, and it's going to be a long time, if ever, before I get my head all the way around it. But it's also 100 pages, and it's broken up into numbered sections that are all about a paragraph long. So it's something that you can kind of sit with for a long time or just gulp down in a hurry, and I couldn't recommend it more highly.
Cool. All right, sometimes we get mail and sometimes we read it, and that means we have letters. Here's a song.
A, letters B, letters C, letters D, letters E, letters M, letters G, letters. Got a lot of letters.
All right, what does the mailbag have in store for us today?
This has something that I think we'll all find a little bit relatable, and this is from Jace, fake last name, and it goes like this. Catching up on the pod, really enjoying it. Not sure if someone has mentioned this, probably has, but there's a thing called Calliope syndrome with the wrong pronunciation of Calliope, or with the wrong pronunciation of Calliope, that refers to mispronouncing a word that you've only read but never heard. Ooh. Not something you feel bad about. It just means you read a lot. Keep up the good work, and thanks for the laughs. This
I'm feeling very seen.
So where I live.
Yeah, this is like right square in the breadbasket for me. I think about once every 2 episodes I mispronounce a word that I've only read. I was very proud of myself for saying litigious this time around instead of litiguous, which I've done in the past, and we've definitely received feedback on.
Yeah, there have definitely been times where I have made us redo a sentence that I am saying with a note to our editor, like, please edit that first one out, because I said a word totally wrong and had to look it up on YouTube to know how to say it right before it left my lips.
But the worst are ones where, like, you don't even think about it. You just have assumed that you know it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you don't know it's wrong until you say it out loud, and people are like,
It's not called pronunciation, dude. And you're like, but there's a noun right in it. I don't understand. Yeah, my mom had this devastating story about reading in class, and I think it was the Odyssey. And, you know, she, in her most teenaged voice, said Penelope instead of Penelope.
Penelope is one that's happened to me.
And I once famously said, reading in like a 4th grade class, that the deck was strewn and littered with derbis.
Derbis. You mentioned derbis.
Yeah.
I had, instead of detritus, it was detritus for a long time for me. Uh-huh.
It's those French ones that get you.
The loan words, man, they get you every time.
Yeah, mine was facade instead of facade.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I had rigid instead of rigid for a while, too.
Wait, so you're saying it's not facade?
No, it's not.
This is very upsetting.
I think one of my worst ones was voila instead of...
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh. And this is one of the dangers of putting your voice on the internet for many people to hear. But it's also part of the fun, because then you get clever shirts like our Dude Sex Mockingjay t-shirt. Which, believe it or not, is not inspired by the Hunger Games, but rather by my horrible mispronunciation of Deus Ex Machina. So there we go. Which I probably got wrong again. For some reason, that word's very hard coming out of my mouth. I mean, I grew up in Florida. We pronounce orange as a 1-syllable word. You can only expect so much from me. I grew up saying orange. I have an orange crayon.
The one that makes me mad is macabre, because in the UK, they pronounce it macabre, but if you say macabre, if you listen to a lot of dumb, stupid British shows where people get murdered a lot and that word gets thrown around, and then you say macabre as a teenager out loud in class, everyone just makes fun of you.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like aluminium or which
advertisement.
I've definitely noticed that Canadians pronounce pasta and drama with like a shorter A sound, like pasta and drama, and it's just normal, and they will make fun of you for, if you say drama, they'll go, ooh, look at Mr. Fancy Pants. So yeah, it happens. I don't know.
Although if you're getting mocked for a mispronunciation in high school, it's as though the adults have created a world that doesn't make sense. And what they fear most, oh God, we're back in the loop.
We are the young and they fear the young. You want to wrap things up here?
Yeah.
I think, first of all, we definitely want to thank Kait and Renata from the fabulous Worst Bestsellers podcast for being our guests once again on this trip through a James Patterson novel. So if people want to keep up with what you two are doing, how would they do so?
Well, if you want the podcast as a whole, we're worstbestsellers.com. We're also on Twitter at worstbestseller with no S, because the S was outlawed by the New Order.
New World Order.
How long have you been sitting on that S joke? The whole episode?
I literally just thought of it.
Nice.
They come to me in the moment, which is why sometimes there just isn't one.
Yeah, it's like this happens to me a lot too. When there's a high point and a low point. And the low point or the high point is when you amaze yourself and you're like, "Hey, that was clever." And the low point is when you get halfway through it and go, "Oh, this isn't working at all."
You look down, you see the tightrope dissolving under your feet. I also cannot wait for you to become exceptionally rich when James Patterson's attorneys finally reach out and are like, what will it cost us to buy the Worst Bestseller? Because we need that for reasons.
We'll trade it to them in exchange for Ruthless.com, which we've been wanting. Based on the forgotten Tom Clancy novel, Ruthless.com.
All the best book titles have domain name suffixes in them. Yeah, and for everyone out there, thank you for listening. If you want to check it out on patreon.com/IDEOTVpod, we have a thing there where you can support the show. It's a donation-based service that lets you help us keep the lights on, so to speak. Helps us replace the noisy-ass chair that I was previously having to edit out of our show with a much quieter chair. Thanks to generous donors like many of you.
Helps us also afford the storage space so that we can continue to house the drumstick and blank-paged journal we were mysteriously gifted, and we're waiting to figure out what they do.
Well, I mean, I've got them in the glass case. But that couldn't have happened without you all at home.
Exactly.
Also, we're on Twitter and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. You could also find the I Don't Even Own a Television Fun Time Party Pit if you want to see some pictures of crabs and lately lots of cute animals, which I am always on board with. And also discussions about books with cool people, so check that out. And if you want to email us, it's I don't even own a television @gmail.com. What am I forgetting?
I don't think anything is...
Oh, I know what I'm forgetting. April the 11th. We're going to be performing live at the Beta Brand Podcast Theater on Valencia.
780 Valencia, San Francisco, California, USA, Earth, Milky Way. Is this Earth 61? No, we're not Earth 616 because that's the one like with Spider-Man and everything.
Yeah.
What's the really boring world? Is there one in the Marvel Comics universe?
I don't know. We're the third rock from the sun, baby. Jonathan Taylor Thomas style. Either way, show doors are at 6:30. Show starts properly at 7 and will only be an hour. So if you don't get there at 6:30, you're just fucking up all sorts of bad. Be there at 6:30. It's totally free. We're going to be delving into the deep, deep waters, as it may be, of Dan Brown's Inferno, which is the most mixed metaphor that's ever existed.
Did Dan Brown write that metaphor for you?
He may have. The renowned waters of Dan Brown's Inferno. And we're going to be doing it live, so be there. And I think that's about it, right?
I think so. Did you guys have a live show coming up, or did that happen already?
I was just going to say, yeah, if we could chime in.
Do it.
If you've been listening to I Don't Even Own a Television, and you're like, I don't live on the West Coast, I can't make it out there. I live in Boston, Massachusetts, and I would like to see somebody talk about bad books. I don't care who. You could come see us do it. Thursday, April 18th at Trident Booksellers in Boston. It starts at 7. It costs $0. So that's...
We'll be discussing Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, and we're looking forward to it. So join us.
That book has one of my favorite obnoxious music scenes ever, which is like the opening of it where he's like singing in a stadium, and it's specifically mentioned that he doesn't need a microphone because his voice is loud enough to fill the arena. And like, even as like a 13-year-old, I was like, fuck this. Like, I can't even sing over the Primus tapes that I'm playing bass along with in my room. There's no fucking way. Oh, shit. Did I just admit I liked Primus?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I think it's time for us to go. Kait and Renata, thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. And everybody at home, until next time, please remember to keep your hand on your wand and... Do it.
Ride the crab.
All right.